and we can talk about the symptoms. We can continue to talk about the floods and the criminalization and the police and all of those things. And we can still talk about that next year and the year after and for the next 10 years. Because we've already started to have the same conversation 10 years ago. So now I think we must start to get much more political. The struggle that we are engaged in is not simply a struggle about seeds and the floods and climate and so on. We are struggling against a system that is getting much more sophisticated, as she started to say. Yesterday and the day before, when we heard reports from what is happening in the climate negotiations, you can see these climate negotiators, the capitalists of the world, they're much further ahead of us. They're already thinking 20 years, 30 years ahead of us. That's how sophisticated the struggle is. And that's why I think we must begin to say, we've reached a new situation. The place where we are today is a very different place, a very different kind of capitalism that we were 20 years ago. We have multinational corporations, we have transnational corporations that's not only interested in controlling the manufacture of aeroplanes or controlling the banks. We have a different kind of capitalism today. A capitalism that wants to control our seeds, that wants to make sure that every seed in the world is owned by 6 or 7 companies. So that every time Alice wants to plant seeds, she's going to have to pay royalties to Monsanto. Every time we want to use fertilizer, we are going to have to pay royalties to Syngenta. So we are dealing with some kind of animal that we must begin to understand. What is this animal that we are dealing with today, and how do we fight it? And that's the question that I think we must begin to put in the center here. Because we will see many different kinds of extractivism. Extractivism isn't simply about mining and platinum and coal. It's one part of it. And what is happening in most of our countries is that the big mining companies who used to mine platinum, who used to mine diamonds and gold are leaving. They're leaving the scraps left in the soil for the zama-zamas in our country, the informal miners, the artisanal miners to go and mine. Because they are now controlling the export and the processing of the platinum. They don't care. They don't want to take the platinum out of the soil anymore. It's not cost effective. They don't want to run the mine. They leave the mine, the running of the mine in Brazil to the Brazilians. And then the Brazilians can take the rap when the dam bursts its banks and they flood and destroy half of the countryside. Then it's not them, the multinationals, then it's the Brazilians. So people, I am suggesting that we begin to think about where we are. What stage of development are we in today? How do we build campaigns and how do we organize for people to understand the sophistication of this enemy that we are confronted? Who is the boss of Valley today, Rodrigo? Where is the boss? Pinky. Where's Pinky? Who messed up your environment in your town? Where is that mining boss? Who destroyed the water? We don't know anymore. also suggesting that part of what we must do in these spaces is to begin to ask, how do we redefine this enemy? How do we redefine our movements? How do we build linkages between the struggle for seed and the mining company and the banking company and the alternatives? So that we begin to learn and we begin to see how we go forward in the next 10 years. If we do not do that, we will be, as Mama Letsefani says in Lesotho, we will sit in our huts and look at how a company from Qatar, wherever, is planting rice in my backyard to take the rice from there to go and sell in his or her country. And she will be hungry. Africa will be recolonized. The South will be recolonized. So I suggest we really begin to talk and understand where we are today. Thank you.
So Moshe and Dottie are taking us to a place where they're asking, what? Okay, we're always talking about the development model and this